Oliver McGee joins us now from Texas. He is a proud Republican and, of course, a former White House advisor. How are you, mate? Welcome to Australian television.
Well, thank you for having me, Paul. I'm glad to be in the Trump corner. I'm Paul Murray.
Well, I'll give
Congratulations
you
on the success of your show.
Thank you, mate. I'll give you the tip. It is a very small postage stamp in the Australian media, but we will do what we can. We will try and make common sense flourish. I want to ask you about a few things, including some of the absolute misnomers that have been pushed by the leftist media about how Trump has a direct correlation to gun violence in the United States. Of course, they speak about the racist who was responsible for what happened in El Paso in Texas. But of course, they say nothing at all about the other shooting that happened that took 9 lives on the very same day. That bloke, an avowed socialist.
You're absolutely right, Paul. I think this is Trump is trying to fight off a negative that is impossible. When he said denouncing racism, bigotry, and white nationalism, he can't win with the media because they're going to say you didn't say enough, and that's like trying to fight a negative and a double negative. I think he is really made a great speech. He was very presidential. His powers of persuasion in the White House at the time was absolutely spectacular. And the media said, we don't accept it. Why? Because they have no ideas of optimism going forward the next part of this campaign. And they simply need to keep pushing these negative words that are bad words in the media to basically marginalize the majority of Americans who are saying that we love the optimism, we love the growth, we love the jobs, we love the trade deals, we love all of the power that we see America looking in America first around the world. And we're proud to be Americans, and we're proud of the American flag. No Democrat on the stage right now can step up and say, I am an alternative. I can do a better job. They're only throwing out this combined message that we're going to unite all the people of color around the country, and we're going to get everyone going to the polls and think about these bad words of racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. And that is not going to work as a message. People don't vote that at the polls. They vote their pocketbooks. They vote their feel-good optimism about being Americans. That's why you do the universal suffrage of casting a vote, because you feel good about the country. The Democrats are in the wrong place, and right now they're doing what I wrote in my article on my website, Exit, Democrat, Exit, the digitalization of presidential politics under Trump.
Very true. Now, we know you love the American flag, not one but two there behind you. That's a man who's committed to the cause. We love it. Now, I want to ask you about something that has been reported only in parts of the media, because the rest of the media is, of course, all in the tank trying to somehow relitigate 2016. And it is how big tech works. And there are people who are willing to blow the whistle about how companies like Google are able to fiddle with what people are able to get as basic information leading into 2020. Here's what an insider had to say just a few days ago.
Recently, Google has been getting extremely aggressive in censoring even political advertisements. They just openly do it. It works once or twice. There's no pushback. They continue. They ramp up the censorship. There's bias in the search results. They have released search quality ratings that say they don't want to be returning too many results for extreme sites. And if you're a conservative news outlet, they'll consider you an extreme site. So they have a lot of different ways of putting their thumb on the scale. They also have a huge amount of information about every single voter, every single person in the U.S. They can mine that information. They can use that to kind of build psychological profiles and figure out how to change your mind.
Now, lefties would say that this is, of course, just presetting a conspiracy theory should Trump lose in 2020. How significant do you think that the digital information ecosystem is going to be to the result and what happens in November 2020?
It's going to be extremely significant. This is what I'm writing in my article, Exit, Democrat Exit, the digitalization of presidential politics in the age of Trump. This is about micro-targeting, micro-segmentation of voters, and tapping into psychological and voter behavior, and at the same time, develop brand new turnout models. This is why Trump is having such successful turnouts in his rallies. And crazy Democrats like Cory Booker is calling for ending those rallies because that's ridiculous. So what we're talking about is Google is stepping in with that digitalization and trying to mess with it. So it's almost trying to be a digital hack. And essentially they're trying to use information against us instead of with us. When we have the new National Quantum Initiative on quantum information science being developed by this administration, that is about looking at how we're going to take the length scales and time scales of digitalization of presidential politics and drive it even smaller and faster and quicker. So that's essentially the science behind all of this. And Google is also tapping into some of the censoring that they're doing over in China. And then they're trying to bring that and test that over here in the model in 2020. It's not going to work because people are more than just digital bytes and bits. People are human beings. People have passions about this president. They have passions about America. They turn out to the voters. The voters turn out to the rallies because they want to be a part of the big show, and politics is about big show and big events. And that's what Trump is very, very good at doing that. He's just now digitalizing. And he has a heck of a lot of money, more than the top 5 Democrats to do it with. And that's what the Democrats are worried about, and so is Google. When I put up on my website, Google crying after the 2016 election, they were crying because they couldn't get in front of the 2016 election because they were surprised. Wait till they look at the 2020 campaign of the digitalization of presidential politics. They won't be able to keep up with it.
Now, there are a lot of people who are willing to look away from the noise. They'll look away from the tweets, they'll look away from imperfect language, they'll look away from potential scandals, made-up scandals, media noise, all the rest of it, as long as the economy keeps rolling on. We know that there's a trade war happening with China right now. We also know that there's an expectation that a deal can be done between the US and China. They're about 5–10% away from that thing getting done. That said, you know how China works, which is China plays a very long game, and it feels like if the deal's not done by the actual calendar date of 2020, they might try to wait it out. They might try to make things difficult for the economy. Do you think that there will be attempts from external and internal players in the United States to try to tank the economy because it's a way of removing the central pillar for the return of Trump in 2020?
That's very difficult because monetary policy is already with the Trump economy right now. They are low. The Fed is working with the Trump administration towards the Trump administration and making sure monetary policy is fixing, and with the Trump fiscal policy, they're really trying to keep control of the 2% inflation model that they work with. But be that as it may, away from that technicality of monetary policy, the internal pieces of managing this economy rest with the president. But what we saw with China manipulated with the currency, they were trying to do that to shape our stock market, and that didn't work because Trump called that out. And so what they were trying to do was wait out Trump to see if they can work with a different player to continue their manipulation of the trade policies that they've been doing for presidential administrations of the past. Trump is saying, no, this is a new day. This is where we're going to basically get a fair deal for fair trade. So you have to come in and play this game. And if you're going to bet that Trump is not going to get elected, China, for your long game, you're going to be in the wrong side of the ledger. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to bet with Trump because he's a casino guy. So that means he's going to be a winner. So I'm going to make sure if I'm China, I'm going to stay with that. And that's why you saw them reverse that manipulation of the currency, and then the stock market bounced back pretty quickly.
Oliver McGee, what a pleasure to talk to you. Strength to your arm. We'll make sure everyone knows how to get in touch with you via our Facebook page. You're a patriot, you're a strong American, and we'll talk to you many times between now and 4 more years in 2020. Thank you, mate.